Hi, hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm your host LupusX, and today I'm gonna bring guys a little bit of an update. So if you guys have noticed, it has been a while since I posted anything to the channel, and I'm very sorry about that. It's been a pretty busy last couple weeks for the most part, and might be even busier. Most of us may be even busier, and since the holidays are right around the corner and they're literally looking at us, very quick year 2018 has been. But for the most part, I'm hoping to bring some more content curators into the idea of PRAMO World of Warships Blitz YouTube channel. It's meant to be a coalition effort anyway, so meant to be multiple people posting the channel. So I'm hoping to bring some more people in that can hopefully give you guys some more tactics on carriers, because I don't have carrier lines, and more tactics on destroyers, because since I'm a cruiser battleship main type of person, I won't be able to answer all those questions effectively as I could with cruisers and battleships mainly. So I'm hoping to bring some more people that actually specialize and have those ship lines, because I don't have a press account to try out all these ships, and I don't necessarily have the best economy in game to buy all these ships either. So to play the both sides of the issue, it's like, okay, well, it's best to bring in some more folks that have these lines and can explain them in greater detail to give you guys a much more effective Q&A than I could currently at the moment. With that being said, I want to cover today with the first part of the video with metas, and then at the second part, I'll discuss the Edinburgh and a little bit of smoke mechanics as well for you guys that are interested. So you can skip around if you guys don't want to hear the whole meta spiel, but I think it's very important, especially with the complaints about matchmaking recently. And I'm not talking about tier differences. I'm talking about matchmaking in terms of the meta spam. For those of you guys who are unfamiliar with the term meta in terms of what it means for wargaming games, it pretty much just means the general consensus of the populace as to what is the way to win currently. Like, what's the class you do best in? So it could be destroyer meta, which destroyer meta just means a lot of people are playing destroyers, or it could be a battleship meta. A lot of people are playing battleships and being effective in battleships. So those are the metas. And as a 4-year tanks blitz veteran, there are 3 things you can honestly do. There may be more, but there's 3 more important things you can honestly do in situations when metas change, because metas change like the seasons do. 3 things you can do. You have A, you can be nonchalant to the meta and let it unaffect you any way, shape, and form possible. B, play with the meta, which is basically if there's a lot of destroyer spam, you play destroyers. If there's a lot of battleship spam, you play battleships. Or you can do my personal favorite, which is C, play 2 steps ahead of the meta. If you guys know anything about somewhat the business world, when the economy dips, the best time to get into investing is in that dip zone, because eventually, unless you're betting on the economy just dying eventually, what will happen is you'll eventually get this upward motion, that upward curve. And if you're ahead of that curve, that's when you make the most profit. It is almost the same way with metas here in Blitz. When there's a lot of destroyer spam like there is right now, it's best to play what? Cruisers. Because cruisers in this rock, paper, scissors style game is what's best about killing destroyers. What's best about killing cruisers? Battleships. And so when you play the game to that meta, you can always stay 2 steps ahead in making yourself more effective. Now, does that mean you won't necessarily have your big damage number games in a destroyer meta game in battleships? No, it just means you might not have as many as you would have had you played a cruiser. It makes sense, doesn't it? So when you start to think about things like that, and start to think about things I mentioned earlier in earlier parts of videos as well about diversifying your ports, this is one of the reasons why I said this in the later parts of the videos about diversifying your ports, because I learned this in tanks. When the meta changes, it's best to have multiple classes of ships, because when the meta changes like this, you're not stuck and bogged down in one sector. So that means if you're just mainly a battleship man and you play one nation of battleships, yeah, you do have a specialization, you know how to fight destroyers, but can you fight 5 destroyers in one battleship? Not when your reload's 20 seconds long, you cannot. So it's best to diversify your ports and not get stuck in one nation. This is the reason why diversification of your ports is very, very important. So bringing around different cruiser classes, different destroyer classes, so when metas change, you can be ahead of the curve almost every time, and you'll enjoy the game a lot more that way than trying to play against the meta and trying to play a battleship and destroyer meta, or trying to play a cruiser and a battleship meta, because you're not going to enjoy the game as much as you would compared to if you played another ship line or another ship class. You could actually get more enjoyment out. Keep in mind, as a disclaimer to that, what I just said, It doesn't mean you won't still get some good games out of it. You just won't get as many great games you would have had you played toward another meta. So hopefully that kind of helps you guys out with the matchmaking issues there so far. And I want to kind of cover in the next part of our video, basically the Edinburgh, some tips with the Edinburgh, as well as smoke mechanic tips as well. So with that being said, there's a big reason why I went down the Edinburgh. And if you guys realize, the Edinburgh is fresh off the market. She doesn't have her historical camo at all. And this is for a good reason. We just bought her for the most part. And so I'm basically been trying her out throughout this new meta because I was like, what's the good ship? If there's a destroyer meta going on right now, what's really good ship lines to grind? I'm like, definitely the British, because the British excel at destroyer deletion anyways, and the Germans. So I was like, I'll get the German captains done, and I'll also get some British captains as well as some British ships done, because I'm like, I kind of want to get that Minotaur and Neptune eventually, so why not? Might as well play and have some fun with it. So this is what I'm doing now, is basically just playing the Edinburgh. For those of you guys that are watching the video, like, I actually like that setup you got going in there, Lupus. What's that setup? Well, I'll go ahead and explain it to you. The first slot is reload, the second slot is acceleration, propulsion gear, and the third slot is traverse. Once again, that's reload, propulsion, and then traverse. And the reason why I run this gear, for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with my British style or my other videos, is because I like the offensive kind of British build this kind of gives me, because it allows me to brawl with destroyers and brawl with the destroyers' maneuverability by mimicking how they can turn away from torpedoes and everything else, and still brawl with them to give that cruiser-like gun advantage to my advantage, as well as giving them maneuverability to do what I need to do and kill them. So it's not the best build in terms of concealment, because it doesn't give me a concealment build, so I have to play somewhat kind of, tiptoe around battleships. But if it's a destroyer cruiser match, I can kind of get in there and I can brawl maybe a little bit. But the British cruisers are not really meant to brawl on most sets of the words. They don't really have the greatest pen on their AP shells, and since all they have is AP shells, you're kind of stuck till you can get APCS, which is armor piercing cap shells, at the tier 11 captain skill, which is at way up there. I only have one captain that has that skill right now, because it takes so long to reach those higher skill tiers up there. But for the most part, while we're explaining the Edinburgh, I kind of want to cover a little bit of smoke mechanics as well while we're here, because I know there's a couple of questions and maybe misconceptions with smoke that has gone around. So I kind of want to clear some of that stuff up for those of you guys who didn't watch my ship skills video. The developers have made it pretty clear they don't want smoke necessarily covering the map. So a lot of you guys have made the allude to PC as to, okay, so why don't the smoke mechanics work like they work in PC? Well, that's because the developers of the game have decided they do not want smoke working to the exact mechanics of PC, and they don't want it covering the whole team, nor do they want it covering the whole map. They want it much more for an interpersonal type of play, where it's mainly meant to cover you. Now, there is a bit of a stretch around this idea, though. You can maybe take one ship with you, like a tag along ship, but you can't really take a full teammate with you, full team with you. You can, so it's not meant to, like, you drive in front of your team at Golden Channel and smoke, and then all your destroyers can just roll in like it's a football game. It doesn't work like a cinematic Michael Bay effect. What it's meant to do is basically be much of an interpersonal thing, as defensive or offensive, to shield attacks or to blind other ships from shooting you if you need it for more defensive purposes. It's not really meant for a shield the team type of effect right there. And you'll notice later on, because some of you guys saw me smoking the Turpitz, which did not appreciate my smoke whatsoever. It kind of made me mad. I sat there and wasted a whole 30 seconds of smoke for him to drive out of it. But as you guys will notice, with coming up right now, you'll notice that Colorado will disappear in smoke as well. And so those of you guys who are kind of wondering, I don't think that's actually going to work. Here is a little bit of your proof right here that it actually does work. Now, will this take some time to actually get this mechanic down because we don't have training rooms? Yes, but you see the Colorado just basically blatantly disappeared. So he will pop back out because he's still moving, but had he stayed still and stopped, he probably would have pretty much been in that smoke for a little bit. But the smoke kind of dissipated on him as well. So yeah, I really didn't have much of a choice there regardless. But as we draw this thing down to a close here, you can see this. I'm loving this. This is my favorite part of the match here, when I can sit here and brawl with the destroyers. This is when I was like, man, this is why I bought this British ship, is just so I can get down and dirty with these cruisers. As much as I love to say you guys have to play tactical every now and then, I'm much like some of you guys out there. I love to get down and dirty and brawl with some of these ships, man. This is my favorite thing to do, is just sit there and turn and get down and dirty with the ships, put everything to the test right here, because this is where your reflexes and everything come to test. So this is like where I really feel like this is a battle. When I'm playing tactical, I'm like, yeah, tactical is fun and all, but this is like the most fun I get out of the matches, is doing this stuff here with the British cruisers, is basically getting down and dirty with the destroyers here. But hopefully, guys, I'm hoping that all this stuff helped you out today with the different metas and different things about British cruisers. I'm hoping to maybe do a British cruiser review more in depth soon. So if you didn't get a whole lot of information out of it, don't worry. This wasn't meant to be an intensive review at all to any extent of the word, but I'm hoping to see you guys out there in the open seas, and I'll be bringing you guys some more content soon. Till then, guys, good luck out there.